This morning, we are still talking about legendary Tennessee women's basketball coach Pat Summitt because, of course, she was such a name up here in Connecticut, too. She left her mark on women's basketball as a whole, but in her later years, she became a champion of Alzheimer's disease awareness ever since she was diagnosed. If you're not familiar, Summitt passed away yesterday at the age of 64 after battling a form of Alzheimer's for 5 years. Joining me now to talk more about it and specifically the type that she had, we're happy to have back on the show Patty O'Brien. She's an Alzheimer's and dementia specialist from Hartford Healthcare's Center for Healthy Aging. Good to see you again.
Good morning.
Good to have you with us. Why don't you start just by telling us in real general terms the difference between Alzheimer's disease and dementia as a whole, what distinctions there are?
Sure. Alzheimer's is actually a type of dementia, and this is where we get confused.
Yeah.
But dementia is an overarching term. It's an umbrella term, and underneath that is Alzheimer's type, Lewy body type, frontal temporal lobe type. So there's lots of different types of dementia. Alzheimer's being the #1 type.
Yeah.
So if I had 100 people in the room and they all had a dementia, about 70 of them would have Alzheimer's type.
And what are we looking at in Alzheimer's and dementia as a whole? What's going on inside people's brains?
Sure. So what we know about Alzheimer's right now is that plaques and tangles are developing. What we don't know is how and why. That's the million-dollar question in research. Why are they developing? How are they developing? How soon do they develop? There is some research that tells us they could be developing up to 10 years before we see enough of a decline that we go, oh, something's wrong.
Oh, that's interesting. Not to draw too many comparisons, but we talk a lot about head trauma and chronic traumatic encephalopathy, where you're starting to see proteins building up, just sort of clogging things in there. Now, as far as Pat Summitt, she had younger onset Alzheimer's disease. What is going on with that? Is that just Alzheimer's disease but younger, or is there something more functional?
We really divide Alzheimer's into two groups, what we call typical onset, and that's 65 and older.
Yeah.
So the #1 reason that someone gets Alzheimer's is age.
Yeah.
So at 65, you have a 1 in 9 chance. At 85, you have a 1 in 3 chance. So for someone 65 and younger, and that's who we call younger onset, it is rare, but we're seeing it more and more.
And we don't know why, right?
Well, I think part of it is good diagnosis. Okay. We've gotten much better at recognizing that this is not just an old person's disease, that it's not just aging, that really it can be a younger person. What we see sometimes with younger folks is maybe it's a little more progressive, but that's still questionable in research, so we're waiting to hear more about that. But yeah, it's the age. 65 and younger is called younger onset.
Okay. As far as symptoms, I'm imagining memory loss, people could figure that out. What are some of the signs maybe they're looking for in a loved one that they may not recognize as signs?
One of the things we always talk about is change. Change in memory, change in function, change in things they've done every day. You know, I always kind of laugh at myself because I'm not good with names. So when I'm older and I can't remember your name, it's okay. It's not a change. But if you're someone that's always balanced your checkbook or always kept a pristine home or always dressed very nice and all of a sudden something's not right. You know, adult children come home for the weekend, they're like, wow, what's going on? It
seems like the change happens more quickly and more dramatically than it otherwise would.
Yeah, in the younger onset. Yeah. And the other thing is the person that's younger may be the breadwinner in the house. They may be the insurance holder. You know, those are all things, too, that are going on that can change.
And that's why it affects an entire family. Right. Talk to me about what Pat Summitt did to try to raise awareness after she was diagnosed.
Right. So we all know her as this great coach. We all know her as this great athlete. But after she was diagnosed, became an unbelievable Alzheimer's champion. She put a face and a name. You know, some people, when they get this diagnosis, kind of pull back. They don't want to talk about it because they're afraid of making mistakes. That brain isn't working right. She went out.
That's a good point you bring up, yeah.
Yeah. So she really went out and talked. She went to the U.S. government and said, you need to fund. She also set up the Pat Summitt Foundation, has raised millions of dollars for research. You know, for us, those of us who are in the field and really pushing for good diagnostic, good research, she was a face that was fresh and really powerful.
What are you doing at the center these days to try to help people out?
Sure. So the Hartford Healthcare Center for Healthy Aging recently received a grant from the state of Connecticut. So myself and Michelle Wyman, my coworker, were both Alzheimer's dementia specialists. So through this grant, we have developed a 80-page resource guide that's on our website for free. People can hit that link and look at it. We also have formal caregiver classes. We also do some home assessments, help families navigate. Sometimes I just talk to someone on the phone. because they're just struggling. They're having a rough day. We really want to help people navigate communication, really respond to behaviors in a positive way to really reduce them as much as possible.
Thumbing through that guide a little bit, I did get that sense that it can be very hard to figure out how now to deal with this loved one, because essentially they're not being themselves. So the old ways you used to be able to relate to them don't always apply so much.
The brain is not working. I mean, that's the issue. When someone walks in with a broken leg with a cast, we see that, and we help them. But anybody could walk through the door and have a dementia. We don't know.
Yeah, and that's just what's so tragic about it. Like you said, if you have a broken leg, you're still you. The body may be breaking down, but when the mind is starting to go, it's not just your faculties. It's almost a sense of who you are, and that's just it's so tragic for people.
And it really can affect personality.
Yeah.
If you're struggling every day and frustrated every day, some anger comes through.
Yeah.
Just from frustration.
Yeah, that's what I got from reading it. It's a wonderful resource, by the way. So if you or anybody is suffering from Alzheimer's or any form of dementia, like you said, Lewy body dementia, whatever it is, there's a lot of resources out there that can help, and certainly you will be able to help them. Thank you so much for it.
Thank you.